So one Marvel character who's definitely had some rough treatment is the Hulk. It's been 18 years since the Incredible Hulk, and he still hasn't gotten his own proper movie or sequel of any kind, which is shocking given the popularity of the Hulk and how he's one of the most recognizable characters. It seems like it'd be easy money for them to do it, and most characters seem to get their own trilogy. I mean, Iron Man got 3 movies, Thor got up to 4, and they didn't cancel his after he had a bad one, and even Ant-Man has more sequels than the Hulk. Yet the only time that he shows up is in other movies as a side character, and his appearances are kind of all over the place. It seems like it wouldn't be that hard for Marvel to just find the right director and writers to put together a great movie and make $1 billion. Still, there's a lot going on behind the scenes that has stopped Marvel from giving him his own movie, and it's because of the complicated rights issues regarding the character. It's completely different from the deal that Marvel and Sony have regarding Spider-Man, where Marvel needs explicit permission from Sony before they do anything with that character. And behind the scenes, there have been a lot of attempts to launch Hulk movies and other projects, yet they only seem to get so far, mainly because Marvel doesn't own the character and there's another studio that does. Most of the mistreatment of Hulk's character isn't just annoying for fans, but it's also been a pain for Mark Ruffalo, who's been quite vocal about his frustration with Hulk's future with Marvel.
So I will get a standalone Hulk movie, and we will work around Universal, and we'll do it in 3 movies instead of 1 movie. So take that, Universal! Now what are you gonna do? You could have had a piece of this, but no! We haven't done it,
One of the main reasons why it's been so difficult to get a Hulk movie made in the first place is that Marvel has a complicated contract regarding the character. And that's because back in the 90s, Marvel sold a bunch of their other characters to film studios for money, and Universal Studios eventually ended up with the rights to the Hulk, which led to Universal releasing the first Hulk movie in 2003, and then partnered with Marvel when they started building their own cinematic universe, and they decided to release The Incredible Hulk as a follow-up to Iron Man 1 in the same year, even having Robert Downey Jr. cameo at the end to tease that these 2 movies were connected in the same universe. Because of Marvel's contract with Universal, they have the distribution rights over the Hulk, which is why it was released by Universal and not Paramount Pictures as they did for Iron Man 1 and some of the other early Marvel movies. The Incredible Hulk had a budget of $140 million, which came entirely from Marvel Studios, and the movie's worldwide theatrical release only brought in $264 million, which was a lot less compared to Iron Man 1, which brought in more than $500 million. Now, even though The Incredible Hulk made more than its budget, there's a hidden fee that's not disclosed to the public. Since Universal Studios owns the distribution rights for any Hulk movie, they collect an undisclosed percentage of the box office earnings. So a portion of that $264 million not only gets split among movie theaters, but also Universal Studios takes their chunk. Essentially, it just decreases Marvel's profit margin from the movie, and the theatrical release also demonstrated that general moviegoers weren't that interested in the Hulk character compared to other Marvel ones. This led to Marvel scrapping the plans for The Incredible Hulk 2, which would have introduced more Hulk characters, and they eventually were going to build up to a Thunderbolt Ross Red Hulk arc much sooner than Brave New World did. Now, instead of erasing the Hulk entirely, they did a recast with Mark Ruffalo, and they introduced him in the first Avengers movie. And since he was a side character, Marvel didn't have to negotiate anything with Universal Studios and they could use him freely. So they are able to use one of their biggest characters and not pay them a single dollar. And this really set the blueprint for how Marvel was going to incorporate Hulk into their universe by pretty much having him appear only as a supporting character, which is how we got to see him in Thor Ragnarok, one of the supporting leads in the movie, but it took place inside of a Thor movie, which Universal doesn't have the distribution rights for. And recently, we also saw Hulk's figure appear in Deadpool and Wolverine briefly for a short scene. Again, not having to give up any of the box office earnings because it's not a Universal distributed movie. A big reason we're going to be seeing Hulk and Spider-Man Brand New Day is that they need to continue developing his character, since they aren't able to do those solo movie wise, especially given how we're supposed to get 2 Avengers movies and we haven't seen his character since the She-Hulk series, which Marvel was also able to release without any repercussions or giving any money to Universal because it was a TV series on Disney+, and Universal's deal with Marvel is only for theatrical releases and not TV series. So if Marvel wanted to, they could make a Hulk-centered TV show, but it raises the question on if they think fans are more willing to show up for a Hulk movie or a longer TV series on Disney+. I mean, Hulk's just had a very confusing character arc since Endgame and even has a son now. There's just a lot Marvel has to clear up, and that's likely what we're going to see happen in Brand New Day to soft reboot the character. Something worth noting, but in 2009, Disney bought Marvel for around $4 billion, which changed Marvel movies from being distributed by Paramount Pictures, as they did for the first Iron Man movie, and it also changed the chain of command at Marvel Studios. Disney does have a track record of being very strict when it comes to their financials and estimating how much a movie could make, as it can be extremely difficult to get some movies approved by them in the first place, which isn't too uncommon now because large studios don't always want to take risks. But over the past couple of years, there have been some reports of attempts at Marvel of launching new Hulk projects and trying to incorporate more of him into the MCU. One of them we recently found out is a project that Vin Diesel was writing and pitching to Marvel, which is called the Arbor King. He ended up leaking the concept art on his Instagram to share that he was writing this project of Groot returning to his home, which is Planet X. And in the concept art, we can see Groot standing in front of a much older Hulk. A surprising duo for a Marvel movie, and we still don't know too much about this project. I'm going to go ahead and say it's quite unlikely we're going to see this come to life because of the overall concept of a Groot movie. There just wouldn't be that much depth in the dialogue, and maybe that's why he incorporated the Hulk into the story to better the chances that it may get approved by the Disney executives. Now, according to some insiders, there have been some talks behind the scenes about Marvel trying to set up a World War Hulk storyline in the future after Avengers Secret Wars, and not just involving Bruce Banner, but the other Hulk characters we've recently seen, such as Thunderbolt Ross and the Leader, and even his son Scar. And for there to be a World War Hulk storyline where Hulk and the others are a threat to the entire planet, we definitely have to say goodbye to the Professor Hulk persona that we've seen since Avengers Endgame. And in Spider-Man Brand New Day, it does seem like they are heading in the right direction of dismantling the Professor Hulk persona and having him turn back into the Savage Hulk. However, one of the more likely projects that's been rumored by insiders is a Hulk vs. Wolverine movie. It is known that after Avengers Secret Wars, Marvel wants to start introducing the X-Men and other mutant characters and eventually recast Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. It isn't entirely clear how long Hugh Jackman plans to stick around, but it seems like he's going to be in the next Deadpool movie. And Kevin Feige has said that they plan to cast a younger face to play Wolverine in the future, presumably for their next X-Men movies. And this could be possible if this was a Wolverine solo movie that stars the Hulk, but they likely couldn't put Hulk in the title. There would just be a lot of back and forth with lawyers to make sure that they aren't violating the Universal distribution rights issue. And this whole situation keeps getting more confusing when we keep hearing mixed answers from Mark Ruffalo regarding on whether there's going to be a Hulk movie. When he was doing the press tour for Thor Ragnarok, he seemed confident that a movie would happen shortly in the future, and in the last year, he now just seems kind of hopeless.
If it'll ever really come to be, honestly. We keep talking about it, what it would be. You know, there's been so many Hulk movies already. It's like, does anyone really even want another one? But I'd love one, and I do think the audiences would be into it if we could crack the nut of it.
Now, I think the part about whether the audiences would be into it comes from the executives, because essentially all these guys do is just penny pinch and estimate what will make them the most money, and they don't want to invest in a character that may not bring as many people to theaters. It's also been increasingly difficult over the past couple of years for theaters to bring audiences back like they had them back in the early 2010s. For example, Captain America the Winter Soldier, it isn't the most successful Marvel movie box office wise, but it is considered one of their best that they've ever put out. And it had a budget of $170 million, and it brought in $714 million gross box office wise. And most recently, the Thunderbolts movie came out. It's not considered a classic, but it's up there and quite well received. And it ended up earning $382 million worldwide on a budget of $180 million. Adjusted for the year of 2025, the Winter Soldier's budget would be equal to $234 million, and their box office earnings would actually be worth $970 million, making it almost a billion-dollar movie. And this really illustrates why Marvel isn't as risk-tolerant as they used to be. Even if you take Universal out of the picture, the executives still have to consider if they'd be able to make enough money box office-wise to justify spending a couple $100 million on a movie. All of this is just really upsetting because it doesn't come down to a lack of ideas or stories that they can't figure out for the Hulk character. It's more about legality. All because of this one deal that Marvel signed with Universal, and we don't know when it expires or even if it ever expires at a certain point. And for the foreseeable future, the hopes of a Hulk movie just keep on diminishing as it seems more unlikely as time goes on, and you really wish that Marvel and Universal could come together like Marvel and Sony did regarding Spider-Man. Hopefully after Spider-Man Brand New Day, we'll get a much better idea regarding the character and his future plans in the MCU.